Hi everyone, so we're back with the second Samuel now. We just completed First Samuel and I'll read Second Samuel chapter 1. After the death of Saul, remember Saul's just died, just killed himself. David returned from striking down the Amalekites and stayed in Ziklag 2 days. On the third day, a man arrived from Saul's camp with his clothes torn and dust on his head. When he came to David, he fell to the ground to pay him honor. "Where have you come from?" David asked him. He answered, "I have escaped from the Israelite camp." "What happened?" David asked. "Tell me." "The men fled from the battle," he replied. "Many of them fell and died, and Saul and his son Jonathan are dead." Then David said to the young man who brought him the report, "How do you know that Saul and his son Jonathan are dead?" "I happened to be on Mount Gilboa," the young man said, "and there was Saul leaning on his spear with the chariots and their drivers in hot pursuit. When he turned around and saw me, he called out to me, and I said, 'What can I do?' He asked me, 'Who are you?' 'An Amalekite,' I answered. Then he said to me, 'Stand here by me and kill me. I'm in the throes of death, but I'm still alive.' So I stood beside him and killed him, because I knew that after he had fallen, he would not survive. And I took the crown that was on his head and the band on his arm and have brought them here to my lord." Then David and all the men with him took hold of their clothes and tore them. They mourned and wept and fasted till evening for Saul and his son Jonathan, and for the army of the Lord and for the nation of Israel, because they had fallen by the sword. David said to the young man who brought him the report, "Where are you from?" "I'm a son of a foreigner, an Amalekite," he answered. David asked him, "Why weren't you afraid to lift your hand to destroy the Lord's anointed?" Then David called one of his men and said, "Go strike him down." So he struck him down, and he died. For David had said to him, "Your blood be on your own head. Your own mouth testified against you when you said, 'I killed the Lord's anointed.'" David took up his lament concerning Saul and his son Jonathan, and he ordered that the people of Judah be taught this lament of the bow. It is written in the book of Joshua. "A gazelle lies slain on your heights, Israel. How the mighty have fallen! Tell it not in Gath, proclaim it not in the streets of Ashkelon, lest the daughters of the Philistines be glad, lest the daughters of the uncircumcised rejoice. Mountains of Gilboa, may you have neither dew nor rain. May no showers fall on your terraced fields, for there the shield of the mighty was despised, the shield of Saul no longer rubbed with oil. From the blood of the slain, from the flesh of the mighty, the bow of Jonathan did not turn back, the sword of Saul did not return unsatisfied." Saul and Jonathan, in life they were loved and admired, and in death they were not parted. They were swifter than eagles, they were stronger than lions. Daughters of Israel, weep for Saul, who clothed you in scarlet and finery, who adored your garment with ornaments of gold. How the mighty have fallen in battle! Jonathan lies slain on your heights. I grieve for you, Jonathan, my brother. You were very dear to me. Your love for me was wonderful, more wonderful than that of women. How the mighty have fallen! The weapons of war have perished. Wow. So that is the summary of, that is chapter 1 of 2 Samuel. And David just gets the news about Saul's death. And the person who reports this, he gives an account of how Saul said that since he was in the throes of death, he told him to stand by him and kill him, because he didn't want to be tortured by the Philistines, as we saw in the previous chapter in 1 Samuel chapter, I believe it's chapter 31. Then David and all the men took hold of their clothes, and they mourned these men who had been pursuing them. Regardless of that fact, they realized the big, huge change that had come upon Israel because of the death of these great men, the leaders, their king and their prince. And they mourned him. And David, so upset, he said, "Why weren't you afraid to lift your hand to destroy the Lord's anointed?" Remember, this man had just given an account, and he seemed so proud of himself. He said that he he stood beside him and killed him being Saul, because he knew that after he had fallen, he could not survive. And he took the crown that was on his head and the band on his arm, and have brought them to him, to David. And David ordered that this man be struck down, because he was not afraid. He was not afraid to strike down the anointed. So David said to him, "Your blood be on your own head, for your own mouth testified against you when you said, I killed the Lord's anointed." And David did a bold and very honorable thing. He paid honor to the king Saul, despite him being the man who had been pursuing him to kill him for years, and God knows how many years that he'd been on the run. And he says this, how the mighty have fallen. He says, "A gazelle lies slain on your heights, Israel." He paid respect to them in death. And he says, "Don't tell the enemies, they will be glad. Don't let the enemies rejoice. But the mountains, may you have neither dew nor rain, no showers." He wanted everybody to come to mourning, including the nature itself. May even the mountains have nothing, no rain to give, and no showers on the terraced fields. For there the shield of the mighty was despised. The blood of the slain from the flesh of the mighty. The bow of Jonathan did not return back. The sword of Saul did not return. And he says of Jonathan, he says first of all of Saul and Jonathan, that they were loved and admired, and in death they were not parted. Swifter than eagles, they were strong, stronger than lions. They were skilled. Yes, they had skills that they were probably using against David, but they were still skilled, and they were still mighty warriors. So he tells of the daughters of Israel to weep because of what Saul had done. He goes back to the attributes of Saul and the way he had done good to the people around him. He clothed you with scarlet and fine linen, and he adorned your garments with ornaments. He pays tribute to him. How the mighty have fallen in battle. Jonathan lies slain in our heights. I grieve for you, Jonathan, my brother, for you are very dear to me. Your love for me was wonderful, more wonderful than that of women. How the mighty have fallen. The weapon of war perished. So we see that David still upheld the anointing of Saul and his honor. He honored him. He gave tribute to him, even if he had died as his enemy. Probably by then he had repented, but still he was dead, having pursued him for years. And David says, "Teach this." He ordered that the people of Judah be taught this lament, that it would be on everybody's lips. Remember, he was a composer, and we see the Psalms, he was a composer. He had poems and all, and songs, and he said, "Let this be taught." So he ensured that everybody recognized how honorable and how mighty their king was, and paid due respect to him and mourned him in his death. So we move now to chapter 2 next. See you.